Welcome to the BitGeek podcast. I'm your host, Ron Avis, and sitting with me, as usual, on the couch to my far left is my co-host, the Prince of Pixels.
Nick Wright.
And returning as a special guest, the chairman of the Chinese knockoff,
Martin Reimer.
And today we're going to be ranking the top 10 game series. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us, Martin. You kind of our go-to guy for these official rankings.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. Yep. And I see you have a friend with you over your shoulder there.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, we call you the chairman of the Chinese knockoff because once again, you've brought over one of your new toys,
BitBoy.
The BitBoy, which is an NES, basically a mini NES emulator, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's your official new nickname. I think it's sticking for sure.
Every time I see him now, he's got a new little Chinese knockoff.
Yeah.
I'm just addicted to those things.
Oh,
right?
but they're so
factor,
cheap,
yeah.
and you get so many of the games on it. Like here I am, like busting my ass, like trying to like get the authentic stuff. Like I've been real big into retro game collecting here lately. And, I'm spending like $30-$40 for a cart, and like you show up, $40 for 80 games.
Right.
But, it's fun. It's awesome.
Quantity over quality, right?
For sure, yeah.
Most of those are double games, right? So
yeah, for sure. But yeah, so we've got together this week, and this is going to be a fun list, I think, because now we're broadening our list. It's not just for a single console. We're talking like game franchises, and that, of course, could include Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, whatever. I mean, TurboGrafx in theory didn't make the list. Although I thought about it, but no, this is
think about Bonk.
Bonk, yeah. It was good for a couple of games, and there was Air Bonk, and then Bonk 3, and then nothing else because Turbo went under. But no, this is our top 10 game franchises, and it was really, really hard to, harder than you'd think coming up with a top 10, because in my head originally I'm thinking, well, there's obvious ones, but how am I going to come up with the 10? And then you're like, you could have done 20, 25 easily. There's so many franchises. Yeah. Majority of games these days are franchises and sequels, and, all the really successful games are just sequels.
Grand Theft Auto, I mean...
Yeah, you may be surprised. Some of our games didn't make the official 10. You may be a little upset at us, but I think once you see our 10, you'll understand why they didn't make it. But yeah, we're doing the top 10 game franchises, and what we like to do is to recognize the fact that, there were some big titles taken off the list, and we each ranked our top 15. Nick can explain how he came up with the 10 as far as the figures go. I'll let you explain how that works.
Right now?
Yeah, just I'm going to put you on the spot. You explain it.
Okay, so I guess, basically we each came up with 15 so that, because we knew, ultimately we wanted the top 10, but I knew that if we each picked 10, we're going to pick 10 different things. And so we tried to do a little overlap just to make sure that we pick some of the same titles.
Yeah.
And so then, like, I would give bonus points if we, pick like titles. And, because I feel like if we all three picked something, but maybe it was, like, on the bottom of the list, well, that's got some sort of significance. So,
right.
Give bonus points to that. So most bonus points if all three of us picked it. Half that if only two of us picked it. No bonus points at all if only one of us picked it. It's just however it's scored, in our ranking.
Yeah, and those the way that the formula that you've ended up with is working really well now for us. Like our first couple of lists there were a lot of ties.
Oh yeah, yeah, and for the first time ever, there was not a single tie that I had to kind of like come up with some kind of like rock paper scissors kind of like for the tiebreaker.
Flip a coin, whatever. Now what we would do is like, well, Ron had it this high up on his list, and like so it was a little convoluted, but it worked.
Yeah, we kind of figured out a good way to break those ties, but we didn't even have to worry about it this time. We didn't have a tie until like down on the list somewhere.
Yeah. Well, we'll rank each of our top
15th.
we'll rank each of the top 15 in the comment or the description down below, so you can see where we who we each picked. And I like when we three get together because we're kind of we have a diverse taste in games. Like we have a common thread for sure. I think we can agree we're all big Nintendo fans.
Oh, definitely.
Well, but doing these shows, I kind of learned, Martin was into a lot of Sega games where, I didn't really play some of those Sega games so much.
And I really like Sega games.
But Sega arcade games, notably.
Yes.
Not even so much like Genesis and whatever.
That's because I didn't have a Genesis growing up.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a Genesis until maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
So that's why I was more into the arcade stuff.
Yeah, because you would say things like Afterburner.
Virtua Fighter.
Yeah.
Which I thought about putting that on my list, but you guys probably would have whipped me or something.
No, we wouldn't have
made fun of me.
I wouldn't have said anything.
No, Nick for sure wouldn't have. Nick's all about getting the fighting franchises in there. I wouldn't have whipped you, but I think that there were just other franchises. They were more deserving, probably.
I mean, Virtua Fighter's not done too much recently, so.
No. Well, they still make them, but they're just not. It doesn't reach nearly as many players.
It's so technical that I couldn't just never really get into it.
Yeah.
I loved it, but I couldn't get into it like I could Street Fighter or like any of the other ones.
Yeah. There was a high learning curve, or steep learning curve, high degree of difficulty, becoming good at Virtua Fighter.
Right.
More so than even Tekken. But so
that didn't make our list either, by the way.
No, not a lot of
shame. Come on.
There. I'm telling you, there are some really solid franchises that aren't even going to get in our honorable mentions. But since we did kind of go over that whole spiel, I wanted to give each of us an opportunity to mention a game that maybe was high on our personal list. That is, due to the fact that the other two of us, didn't necessarily agree it was in our top 10, just got knocked out because neither one of us put it in their top 15. So I thought it'd be interesting to go ahead and give us to shine the light on a game or two, or just one game each, to say hey, we know this is a great game. We love this game. I want to mention this game, even though it didn't make the official 10. I think what we'll do is we'll start with Martin since he's our guest, and if you want to mention your honorable mention there, go for it.
So my honorable mention would be the Final Fantasy series. Ever since the NES all the way to PlayStation 4, I mean, fantastic. I mean, the killer game that sticks out for me would be Final Fantasy 7. I loved 8 and 9. 9 was probably my favorite, but I had to mention 7. It's just, I grew up with that. The story, the graphics at the time, it's just fantastic.
Wait, so you wouldn't include the Nintendo versions necessarily?
I was probably more into the 3D Final Fantasy games, quite honestly. I didn't really get into the Super Nintendo versions. They're obviously pretty good, but I can't really speak to them that much.
I'm afraid I can't either. I've tried Final Fantasy VII on a number of occasions, because you'll see it cheap on the PlayStation Store, or whatever, and I was working at Babbage's when that game was released.
Yeah.
And I remember just there being a wall of pre-orders behind us, just stacked. Way high.
It was the game. Right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No denying its popularity, and it's been around on all the systems. It feels like first the Nintendo, and then of course it had its string of successes on PlayStation, and then Microsoft started getting in on it. And they were releasing it on multiple platforms.
Yeah,
where it wasn't just an exclusive, because Final Fantasy was an exclusive title for Nintendo for a long time, and it was kind of a surprise when they didn't continue making Final Fantasy games for the Nintendo 64. I mean, what did you think about that?
Yeah, I was pretty shocked. I mean, I think obviously looking back at it, it's the biggest issue was the storage, right?
Yeah, probably.
There's no way you could have put Final Fantasy VII on a cartridge. I mean, it would have been like a $400 cartridge.
Nintendo really kind of shot themselves in the foot, I guess, by doing the cartridges.
Yeah, and I think the hardware too, with the Silicon Graphics chipsets, it's just, you had to have a lot of RAM to run versus the PlayStation system was almost more like a computer back in the day. Developers could work on it a little bit better. What
about Final Fantasy 15? What are your feelings on the latest one that came out last year? The one that was in development for years.
So to be honest, I've got it, but I haven't even cracked it yet. It's on my backlog. I've got friends that have played it, and they say they love it. It's definitely had some updates recently that have improved it. I think it's also on the smartphones. So they've got like a...
Isn't there like a chibi version?
A chibi version.
Chibi version, yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the same exact game, but it's just a chibi version, so...
Adulting sucks, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah,
yeah, I can't even pass judgment on you as far as having that back catalog of excellent games, because I'm that way too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the reasons why the Switch has taken over my gaming, the majority of my gaming time, is it is portable and it's easy to just like grab it, and you know the kids and the family can watch TV and you can just like kick back and play on your Switch, and
you could just pause it at any time, put it away.
yeah.
And that's awesome.
Like I find myself wanting to play everything on the Switch nowadays, even though I know that it's probably a more complete gaming experience on the PlayStation or Xbox, you know, if that's your thing. But you know, you'll have to get back with us. Let us know what you think about Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I would love to see some more, you know, some Final Fantasy games on the Switch.
What about?
I don't think there are any at this point.
What are your thoughts on that remake that they're coming up with? Final Fantasy 7 remake.
I'm super excited about it.
That they also talked about forever ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm hoping at E3 they show something. My concern is that it's going to be like split into different sections.
Isn't that what they've already kind of said?
Yeah.
It's going to be episodic.
Yeah, it's going to be episodic. Yeah.
I don't care for that either.
I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, because it could be you get it maybe this year, and then it could be another couple years, or PlayStation 5 before the next iteration comes out.
Yeah, and then they'll just end up like scrapping it and starting over a little bit, and then more delays. Hey, by the way, speaking of E3, you have to join us for our E3 prediction show that we do.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I think it'll be a lot of fun to have.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoyed doing it with Nick last year, but I think you're a little bit more like me as far as like you pay more attention to the announcements and things like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I definitely watch like the announcements. And, yeah.
Oh, I watch them like live. I get into it big time.
Oh yeah.
I just find out when I find out.
Yeah, Nick finds out when he finds out. Usually I'll tweeting, or not tweeting, but like texting like constantly. Like, oh my god, you won't believe what they just showed. And Nick's like, great.
Cool.
But yeah, okay. So Martin, Final Fantasy. So all of you Final Fantasy nuts can put your pitchforks down. It's not in the top 10, sorry, but it is going to get an honorable mention.
And definitely post in the comments your favorite Final Fantasy game. I'd be curious to see that.
So you're on record with Final Fantasy 7 then?
Well, I have to say Final Fantasy 7, but I really like 9.
Well, go with 9, man. Go with your heart. You don't have to worry about what other people are going to say.
You know how it is.
I know.
You got to at least mention 7, but 9's my go-to.
I remember when Nick and I were doing our 10 favorite PlayStation games, and we nearly did the whole entire show without even bringing it up.
Oh, yeah.
we're going to lose every subscriber. No, we recognize it. It's just Nick and I aren't big RPG fans, so, sorry. All right, Nick, did you come up with an honorable mention for yourself?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I kind of forgot to even think about it until you said something a little bit ago, and then I'm like, oh, yeah.
I'm really putting you on the spot.
I'm glad Martin's going first because I got to think about that. You know what? I'm going to go with the Pac-Man series.
Okay, I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so relevant today, but it's been around for so long. It kind of started it all, Yeah. So, and I mean, it's just still a fun game to just kind of pick up and, play. Like when you got that quick, minute or two to play like a quick game or something, Pac-Man's fun.
When you're our age, you really appreciate those games.
Yeah.
Because you just don't have a whole lot of free time.
Yeah, because you're like, well, let's see. I don't really have time to go through Final Fantasy right now. But maybe I can play a quick game of Pac-Man.
Yeah. And you're including all of the Pac-Mans, right? Like Miss Pac-Man, Pac-Man.
Oh, yeah, the Pac-Man series. Yeah, because obviously, I mean, there's better ones than the original Pac-Man.
Right. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of Pac-Man games over the years.
I mean, even a few years ago, they had, the Pac-Man Champions edition.
Yeah, when you said that they weren't necessarily relevant anymore, that one sprang to mind. I mean, not in anyone's top 10, I guess, as far as sales go, but I mean, a lot of people enjoyed that game.
I mean, they still come out with new versions of him.
In a novelty.
He's not forgotten.
No, he's not forgotten. He's still around. He's in the Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
You know, so he's much.
Yeah, that was really cool to see him in Smash Brothers.
I love it. I love with the Smash Brothers games when they get those like obscure, like Game and Watch, and it makes me wonder who they're gonna put in for the new Smash game.
Yeah.
Coming out, I guess, later this year. All right, so I'm gonna pass it over to me. I guess that's all we gotta say about. Yeah. I'm gonna mention, and I'm like pretty much the only gamer, like sports gamer, really, I guess, of the group.
Yeah,
but
probably.
I have to mention Madden Football. In terms of releases, we didn't necessarily do any research as to how many releases there were per game. And like Martin, you'd said we wish we'd had. That'd have been interesting to know.
Oh, I kind of did for my games, but not everybody's. I don't have it written down though. It's just kind of how I came up with my list, and when I was trying to bump things down and trying to figure out the order. I was like weighing, like, well, let's see, how long has this been out, and how many titles does it have that maybe, I got more enjoyment from playing like 30 titles over 7,
Well, unlike Martin's Chinese knockoffs, like quantity doesn't always equal like quality too when you're thinking of game franchise. There's
so many of the series too, though. I mean, I don't mean to cut you off on your Madden spiel, but
we're done with the Madden.
All right, go on.
But, it's like so many titles too. You had to sit there and think like, oh man, this was a great series, but then it's kind of like, it's had some misses. It wasn't still good.
Yeah.
It's not on the list, so I'll throw it out there. Like Resident Evil, I mean, it was strong. It hit big. It was the coolest thing, and
it's back.
And it's back.
It's definitely back.
Yeah, and the new one is really good. I've only just started playing it, but I have actually. It's one of those new games that I've bought, and finally I started playing it. But I'm not far at all.
Yeah.
But
I still want to do a series of virtual reality, like series on virtual reality where you like put the camera on me and watch me act like a chicken.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't started it, because I was thinking like that makes make for funny videos.
But I mean, it got to be like so action oriented that it kept like going away from what made Resident Evil.
So you didn't
cool.
like Resident Evil 4?
Oh,
I was going to say the highs are great.
Okay.
The first one, the second one, 4.
4 is like the peak.
Yeah, definitely.
But
You're talking about 5
it
and
got
6?
even more and more like 5 and 6 though.
Yeah, I didn't get into those two.
What's interesting, you bring that point up too, because like a series that it started out in my list that got pushed down fast was like the Turtle games. Big time fast start, like the 2 arcades, the NES games, the first couple NES games. Loved them, but it's just been a gauntlet, an onslaught of shoveled out crap ever since then. It's like there hasn't been a good Turtle game in so long.
There's that new arcade game. I'd really like to. I assume it's out.
Which one?
I remember I've seen an advertisement for it that they've made a new Ninja Turtle arcade game. That it's kind of like in that Nickelodeon style.
I bet it's at Dave & Buster's or something like that.
But it's one of those with like the giant screen, and it's 4 players like the old games are. But I've never seen it aside from like an advertisement.
John Madden Football.
So back to
John
Madden.
No, but John Madden, there's been a release of John Madden Football, I think, every year since like 89 or 90. And it spans all the different systems. Like back in the 16-bit days, it was like the computer and the Super NES and the Genesis, and then it had its kind of dark years in the PlayStation, but then came back, and it's had competition, over the years. Some really good titles, but they've all washed away. Like Madden's still standing. It's still like the key.
Started in '88.
Thank you, Nick.
Wow.
On the computer, I think. I don't believe it came out on Genesis until like 89 or 90. But I have I've vlogged so many hours playing Madden on.
I'm sorry.
All the systems. Don't be. I loved it. I loved every second of it. And especially when it kind of like the 2-player experience was always fun, but then you kicked into like the online experience, and it made it even more robust. And this, I rage quit a lot of times. Like I don't think I've ever been more angry than playing Madden online against somebody.
Did you play the Wii version? Did it have like Wiimote?
I bought it, but to be honest with you, I think I bought it at the same time as like the PlayStation 3 version.
Yeah.
And
there's no match there. Right?
No. Well, that was going to be the gimmick, was like, use your Wiimote to make a pass. And I think I might have tried it and made a completion. I was like, this is like the gimmickiest of gimmicks right here. It didn't add anything for me personally. Maybe for some of you guys out there, it was great. and some of those games, like Metroid, were great. You know, like if you're aiming with like a reticle or whatever.
The trilogy pack.
Yeah, that's totally fine. But didn't really translate to the simulation sports, like swinging a racket or whatever. Like that's fine. But simulation, like if you're trying to simulate a football game, there's no place for that. You can't waggle when you're trying to play Madden football.
I'm holding my tongue, man. You started talking about, how with the Wii, improving it and whatever.
Yeah.
That it just made me think of hijacking it with talking about Resident Evil again.
It's okay. It's all right, man. Jump on in. This is a fun conversation.
Yeah, because, you were talking about Resident Evil 4. That's the best version, in my opinion, is on the Wii and being able to aim the gun with the Wii remote.
Yeah, and that was an exclusive, too, for a while. So I think that's
it
most...
Well,
it was exclusive to Nintendo on GameCube.
You're right.
Which was impressive on the GameCube.
But then it already come out on PS2 by that time, and then it came out with the Wii edition. But yeah, in my opinion, the Wii edition is the best
Wii
one.
version.
Yeah. Okay.
So not on iOS. It's not your favorite version.
No,
you don't ever play it on your
iOS. It's not very good on iOS.
Nothing plays good on the iOS except puzzle games.
Back to Madden.
Right. No, I'm done with Madden. I just wanted to tip my tap to Madden.
In the game.
You know, it's still going today. Probably as much as the R1 and 2. Like it stayed relevant over the years. Yeah. And it's probably made the most money out of any of these series. I mean, I don't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yep. I don't know.
Okay, so with that said, we've each speaking our piece. You guys interrupted me a little bit when it came to mine, but I went along with your alls respectively. Like Final Fantasy? Sure, I've never played
Pac-Man went by really quick.
Yeah. Well, it's because we talked about Pac-Man so much in our arcade.
That's not much to say.
Not really. It's wonka, wonka, wonka. Like, hey, how many times can you freshen that up? But yeah, let's go ahead and get to the main event with our number 10. Nick, please do the honors.
All right, so number 10, the first of this series released in 1986, Castlevania.
All right. Simon Belmont.
I wonder who is most excited about that.
Notably was not on Ron's list.
Yeah, it wasn't on my list, but that's only because, you guys can look at my top 15 down below, and they're all good games. Like, they're big games.
And you were the first one to submit your 15.
I was.
And that was the very first thing I said is, Martin, I don't see Castlevania on his list.
And I said it's going to be on mine for sure.
I opened myself up for scrutiny right away. Nick, you just basically gave yours up today.
I know.
You were really thinking hard on that.
I was like, Nick, where's your list, man?
I mean, I didn't really even get started until this morning.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was been working and...
Adulting sucks.
Yeah, adulting.
Yeah. We gotta have jobs and make money to pay for this expensive thing that we love to do.
For all these toys here.
For all these wonderful toys. All right, so let's talk about Castlevania a bit. This is a series that has had success over many different consoles. Not all of these can say that.
Mainly Nintendo, in my opinion.
Mainly Nintendo, but also PlayStation.
But yeah, I mean, when Symphony of the Night came out, that was huge.
Oh yeah.
We've talked about it before, like on the PlayStation episode. We were all over Symphony of the Night.
We both gave it love. Yeah. It's the first Castlevania game that I probably that Castlevania 4 is probably. I think I love
Castlevania.
Yeah. I think I love that game the most out of all the Castlevania games. But I mean, I can't deny the Symphony of the Night is a beautiful game.
Yeah.
I remember like when Super came out. That being able to whip in at angles and holding the button and it would just go limp and you could like twirl it around.
Yeah. The music in all of these games.
Yeah.
That one of the things that comes to my mind first is all of the Castlevania games have such a distinct like soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could think of the first level and the Super. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, it's like it just comes to my mind, and that's one of those games that I'm like really trying to find. On eBay, like a full and complete, but it's so expensive, you guys. You people that held on to them, and you're selling them for like an arm and a leg nowadays. Stupid people like me who sold their stuff. Like this guy over here, he was telling me.
I just kept them.
You just kept them.
Hold on to it.
I was always robbing Peter to pay Paul to get the newest thing, and then Nick was smart. He kept all his stuff. But with Castlevania, like. Let's talk about our favorite Castlevania. I think I'll go ahead and say Castlevania 4. Super Castlevania was my favorite. Martin, what's your favorite?
The original Castlevania, definitely.
Yeah. Symphony of the Night.
It's interesting that we all have different favorites on different consoles. So, But it was also released on the Genesis. The Genesis had Dracula X, or was that Super Nintendo?
That was Super Nintendo.
That was Super Nintendo. I want to say that was on something else too, though.
The TurboGrafx.
TurboGrafx, yeah.
Okay. Bloodlines, which Martin, didn't you say you had an actual physical copy of Bloodlines?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to play that because I could see the Genesis doing a pretty good job of 2D.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it was typical Genesis art style, but
I always liked it.
Yeah, it was good.
And the interesting thing about the Symphony of the Night is, Nintendo, Castlevania and then Simon's Quest, and then the third one I can't really remember. It was like the Curse of something. But Curse of Dracula, maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember the subtitle, but that one, it had like the 3 different people that you could be Alucard.
Yes.
And,
Yes. I like that a lot.
I forget all their names.
I skipped the Belmont's Quest. Was it Simon's Quest?
Simon's Quest.
I'm doing it because you said it.
Right.
Yeah. But that was a really different one. That was like
RPG,
Martin,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, Dracula's Curse. That's what 3 is called.
Was it Dracula's Curse?
Yeah.
Okay.
And 3 is pretty good too. I like that one a lot. I like the second one just because it's so different. They didn't just make a sequel, right, to the first one. Like the third one is basically a sequel to the first one, but the second one is just so different with the role playing.
That was like Nintendo's shtick.
I was thinking the same thing. With Mario and Zelda, they kind of experimented.
Make them completely different and see how that goes.
Yeah.
And they sold, I guess, but they quickly went back to the formula, the original formula. Like, let's just make those games better.
Right.
And I don't think that anyone stopped that formula ever since. Like, it's hard to take a chance. And when the 16-bit console wars were ending, and people were getting into their new systems, and it was 3D. Nintendo did have a Castlevania game in 3D, but I didn't think it was very good. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Version.
Yeah.
I don't know what Castlevania 64. Maybe it was just called Castlevania 64. I don't know. But I think there were a couple of those games, and man, it just did not, to me at least, feel like it translated very well to 3D.
A lot of titles kind of went that route where it's like everything had to go 3D, and a lot of things just didn't translate to 3D, at least at that time. That just wasn't done well.
Like Donkey Kong.
Superman 64.
Oh, God. You would have thought that would have been a home run.
Yeah.
But PlayStation was smart, man. They were one of the first to kind of get into that retro. They brought the 2D beautiful sprites and stuff back before, I want to say, anybody else really did. Because you couldn't find a good 2D game for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then PlayStation, why am I playing this 2D game on this 3D machine? You're like, why can't we have both? I guess you're right. Why can't we have both?
Mm-hmm. Well, in Japan, it was also on Sega Saturn. Just never made it to the States.
Yeah, Saturn just didn't.
Saturn was designed as a 2D system, right?
That's true. It would have been nice on that for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Castlevania, noticeably absent lately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Not sure what to say about that.
I don't either. Aside from the spiritual successor version that's in the works on Kickstarter.
What's that one called again?
What is the name of
Bloodstained?
that? Yeah, Bloodstained. Yeah.
I want to play that.
So it's created by the creator of Castlevania.
Yeah.
But Konami doesn't seem to really want to do anything with the name anymore.
Konami's sort of one of those they're kind of hated right now by a lot of old school gamers. They've got a bad rep because they got rid of Kojima for the Metal Gear games, and there was a lot of sourness over that. But then they're sitting on these other classic titles like Castlevania. Make a new Castlevania game. What the hell are you guys doing?
They did a great job with the Game Boy Advance titles. All the Castlevania games there, I think there were 3 or 4 of them there.
Yeah, and there were some
really
DS
good
titles that were pretty good.
DS, yeah.
There was a time when you weren't hurting for Castlevania games, for sure. Maybe that's why it's been absent. There was a new title almost every year. And if you play like any series, you kind of go back to the well, and you add a few things, but just get tired of it. Maybe the sales start getting a little, stale, and you try new stuff. So
maybe we should do an E3 prediction. There's going to be a new Castlevania title.
Don't give it away just yet. That's a good one. Oh, damn! I would love that. If we can get Crash Bandicoot on the Switch, maybe we can get Simon Belmont on it. All right, Castlevania. That one's all for you, Martin.
There you
Well,
go.
no, it was on Nick's list too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
had it.
Okay. I was the lone jackhole. Okay, Nick. What's our number 9?
Okay, number 9. This series started in 1987. Mega Man.
The Blue Bomber.
Fighting robot.
Yeah, I don't. Not so much a favorite of Martin's, I don't think,
Well,
because he
He started with the
started
first
out on the
Mega
hard
Man.
one.
yeah.
The toughest one.
I definitely respect the series. It's just not in my top 10.
The music, the
Yeah.
colorful, like the robot masters. I love them.
It was high for me. Oh, I didn't really say like where we rank Castlevania. I guess it's not so important, but yeah, Mega Man.
Well, no, because I mentioned we got the list down below. If you want to,
okay.
see where,
Yeah.
unless you just want to make a point, like I had Madden at number 3. I really tried getting it in the top 10. Like I tried forcing its way up there, but I just couldn't get it up to 1. I couldn't allow myself to do that. But yeah, Mega Man's a great series. Lots and lots of games, and once again, a game that's translated to many different systems.
Oh, yeah.
And another one of those, like where it left Nintendo and found a home on PlayStation.
And well, I guess they are actually making a new one right now. What is
Yeah.
it? 11?
Yeah. It's going to be 11, and it looks cool.
Is it going to be 2D, like 9 and 10?
2.5 kind of looking?
Yeah, kind of 2.5, but it's not the NES style like 9 and 10 was.
Oh, that's too bad.
It's new graphics, but that same old kind of play style,
Kind
I
of like
think.
the PSP versions, where it's like 3D but 2D.
Yeah, sort of. Not cutesy like that, though.
Okay.
What's that Kickstarter game that was one of the original creators of Mega Man?
Oh,
came out?
Mighty Number 9.
Yeah, and a lot of people were really kind of butthurt over that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It looks
they were
kind of like that to
disappointed.
me, but prettier. Like that game looks kind of not complete or something.
Yeah, I think they kind of rushed that, you know.
I don't know what happened to Mighty Number 9. I
It
don't
had
know.
the pedigree. It had everything going for it, and it's not like
Yeah,
it was. You say it was rushed, but I mean
The
it was
thing
out there
I
for a
didn't
long
really-
time.
The thing I didn't really like about it was kind of the new play mechanic they put into it, where I can't even think of what it is. You
It's
like dash
chaining,
into the people,
like chaining combos. Kind
yeah, like when you're shooting them, they'll kind of like do this kind of little glow thing, and then you dash into them, and you keep doing that to get like combos or something. And I just didn't really like that. I didn't get into that.
I believe that game
mechanic.
I believe that game. Sorry, Nick, to interrupt you. I believe that game either this month or last month was free on PlayStation Plus.
Oh really?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
if you guys didn't have it.
I
So,
have it.
I've
So.
got it.
okay, I got it free on PlayStation Plus.
Not on PlayStation, so yeah.
I think I have
Yeah.
it on Wii U.
Okay.
I have to be more obscure.
But Mega Man is it's interesting because there were like some strategy Mega Man games. There was like wasn't there like a strategy like on PlayStation?
Talking about like
Wasn't
the
that a
Battle
Capcom?
Network.
Yes,
Oh.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I never
I
played
think
it.
that's on Game Boy Advance.
Yeah,
too.
Game Boy Advance. Yeah, I never played those.
It's almost like a Pokemon type thing, or
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh type. Yeah.
And then there was another popular series of game that I never played either. I want strictly the classic Mega Man. That's all I mean. I'll do Mega Man and Mega Man X.
There was like Legends series.
Legends, yeah, that
People
was
love
good.
that.
Legends.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
did love that. People did love that, but
Trombone.
what?
Google it.
Okay.
I know what he's talking
Okay.
about.
you explain to me what trombone means in a second or two.
Tron is the first name.
Okay.
Bone is the second name. The
Moan.
last name. Bonne.
I think so. Yeah.
2 N's.
So Tron Bonone. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, Mega Man. What else can we say about Mega Man?
And actually, there was a third one that RPG that they ended up canceling.
What about Mega Man Maker? Those games are kind of neat. The fan-made games.
I haven't tried them.
It's not official.
Chris is
Capcom.
all over that Mega Man Maker, but I downloaded it, but I never have done anything with it.
And then sort of building on that engine, there's like another fan-made game where it's like a fighting game.
Yeah, and I downloaded that, and I really want to try that out, but
It looks cool.
adulting, and I just haven't.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the Mega Man arcade fighting game or something different?
No, there's this fan thing that they used the Mega Man Maker to create this thing.
Yeah.
It's basically like, there's a game that I'm trying to think of, but I can't think of the name of it.
It's
But
like
it's like an arena style fighting game with like the Nintendo sprites that you can play as the bosses and fight each other and jump
and
around.
it could be more than 2 players. Like there could be, I don't know how many up
Yeah,
to
you can
do,
have like
but
4 players in this like arena kind of fighting game kind of thing. Shooting all the Mega Man weapons and whatever.
I got all I wanted out of it just watching like some YouTube videos. It's like, this is cool. I dig this.
Yeah.
And I like that there's like so many passionate fans in the Mega Man series that they're willing to devote so much time into a project that they'll never see a cent over, you know, unless they can accept donations or
It's
whatever.
all about the passion.
You know, you're talking about people being mad at Konami. I mean, people are so mad at Capcom.
Yeah, the Capcom's definitely had their critics too. I feel like they're making a bit more of a comeback here though in recent years. I think people are starting to forgive Capcom a bit more.
At least Street Fighter V is starting to become a good game now.
Years later. Until they start pushing 6 and then they'll roll it back.
Yeah.
But, digress. All right, Nick, that's our number 9. What's our number 8 on the list?
All right, number 8. This started out in 1992. Mario Kart.
Mario Kart is a great series. Consistent throughout every game. There's never been a bad Mario Kart game, I don't think.
Man, when Mario Kart 64 came out,
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
amazing.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that's my favorite Mario Kart.
Yeah,
The
I'd have to
memories.
agree on that, yeah.
Yeah, as far as like nostalgic memories, then yes.
Mario Kart 8 is a better game objectively, but just if I'm awarding points for nostalgia, and this is a nostalgia fueled show, so I have to kind of that game's the one I played the most. Like the Super Nintendo version was cute, novelty, and
I mean, it's just all, timing, just like where we were in life and whatever.
Sure.
That we were able to have like those LAN parties, for lack of a better word,
Oh yeah.
well, the N64 was just like a built-in LAN party machine.
Yeah.
Like 4 players right off the bat.
Anything now, it's designed to play it online that you don't have to have people with you. So we had a group of people together to play, and those were the good times.
Except for the Switch, right? Now you can bring them together. You have the option.
Yeah,
now.
that's what they hope to do, but I don't.
I've yet to
How many
try
people
it.
actually do that though? Let's
think
everybody
plenty.
gather
we
together
we
and
haven't even done that.
network together.
We
on
haven't,
Switch
but I
and-
mean, we do it at my house. Like, Laura and Logan and I, we do it all the time.
Yeah.
So it's still alive and well. The spirit's there. Yeah, it's
Nintendo has always been trying to keep that alive though, like with the Wii.
and part of
Wii
it too is the way
Bowling
they've
and Wii
dragged their
Sports.
feet on an online, like a robust online community too. Like they really haven't done themselves
It's
any
taken them
favor.
a long time.
Yeah, they're still not there.
Yeah.
That's fine. I enjoy doing the local co-op. The couch co-op is alive and well at Nintendo, and I'm glad they haven't strayed away from that. I mean, I don't know if it's on purpose or not. I don't know if they're just intentionally making their online infrastructure weak. I doubt that, but
I mean, they purposefully seem to want to get that social aspect back into it though.
yeah, that's the way they're
Like,
selling the Switch.
Yeah, so like if you on the commercials, like you got your Switch and you're on the bus or whatever and you're playing it,
Or in
and,
the airplane.
and somebody else is like watching, like, oh hey, you're playing Mario Kart. Oh hey, you want to play? Here, let me snap my controller in half and hand you one, and now I got one.
Get
And
your
let's-
grimy hands off my Wiimote Switch.
You need your own Pro controller, buddy. Sync it up. But yeah, that's exactly the way they're selling it. And, I haven't had that dream scenario yet where you're playing your Switch and you get this impromptu game of Street Fighter 2 going or nothing. But then again, I don't have the Street Fighter 2 game. And when the 30th anniversary edition comes out, I'm buying that. That looks legit. This other one was just like, okay. But that 30th anniversary...
Like they were just rushing to get something out.
They really were. They were rushing to get something out, and then it still sold really well. And there was that whole period
Nick
where...
bought it.
I bought it.
Nick bought it for sure. I thought
Not
about buying it a couple
disappointed.
times. It was like $30. It wasn't too bad.
It's Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Yeah.
There you go.
That was the best one.
But Mario Kart, so many great memories, and like every title's good. Even the portable ones are really good.
Oh, I love the Game Boy Advance version.
Yeah, the 3DS one's really good.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the Double Dash with like the 2 racer mechanic thing. That's
Yeah.
cool. They do experiment. I like having the
I didn't like that one for GameCube.
You didn't like it?
No, I thought it was just too different. I don't know.
I liked it.
Okay. It's not my favorite, but I kind of liked what they were going for, and they moved away from that.
I liked it because you could like your other passenger guy could be holding like his own weapon, and so you could like switch between weapons. Like, I'm gonna hold on to that one, so you switch drivers.
It made for a more exciting race, I think. But it was still a quality game. But what I'll say about Mario Kart. This is a spin-off of another popular series of games that I'm sure to nobody's surprise will come up later. But this is the first like mainstream Nintendo game on our list.
I mean, if you're gonna go right down to it, I think 3 of our top 10 are really spin-offs of this particular.
Oh, you're right. Sure. I guess I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Man, it's the king. What can I say? All right, well, we're not gonna linger on Mario Kart. Your favorite, you think, is Mario 64? I mean, Mario Kart 64.
As far as like nostalgia value, like you say, yeah,
me too. And the Mario Kart Advance, was that your favorite?
Well, I agree with you all.
Okay.
The N64 version
N64
is number
wins.
one, but then Mario Kart Advance would be.
I gotta say, 8's
Mario
pretty
Kart
solid.
Advance. I thought that one was doo doo.
Oh, shots fired.
Here's what I like.
So that's because you said something shitty about Double Dash.
Yeah. Here's why I liked it, because it reminds me a lot of the Super Nintendo version.
Yeah.
The FX style, but it has the better graphics, right?
Okay. Well, yeah, and you're right in those aspects.
Yeah.
But to me,
Those are good points.
But to me, I was already into Mario Kart 64, and so then when I went like back in time to like kind of the Super Nintendo style, but with better graphics, I was just like,
I gotta say the
like,
Super Nintendo is the weakest.
It's
for
like
me.
2D,
It's like faux 3D. But all right, so we'll move on to number 7 on our list. Nick, what is that?
Number 7. So this series is the newest on our top 10.
Oh, wow.
Coming out in 2001.
We're some old school farts.
Yeah. So Halo.
The first ever mention probably of Halo on our show.
Really?
There's no way.
Well, maybe the Warthog came up from time to time in our vehicles episode, but I think so. In terms of games, talking about the game.
I guess
itself.
we've like never talked about like our favorite Xbox games.
No, we're still got to do an Xbox episode. We haven't gotten there yet.
Steel Battalions.
Well, we'll invite
Comment below, guys.
It's always trying to it's always trying to gather support. No, Halo is one of those games, and we had a little conversation before we started recording, and for us both, probably. I mean, there's some little points here and there, but that we played and enjoyed. But the first Halo game is the majority of the reason why this is on our list.
Mm-hmm.
But
you guys are lucky, because that was originally supposed to be a Macintosh game.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be a Mac game and Xbox.
Microsoft said, "Hey, Bungie, we're gonna get this.
We need an exclusive worthy of this gaming system," and thank God they had that, because they didn't have a whole lot to do with. And but I played Halo. I was working at like Dillard's department store or something, and I'd walk down to I don't know what it was. It wasn't a Babbage's, but I guess it was just like
EB Games.
It was probably like an EB Games, and they had the demo unit set up, and it was the first level, and I started. Somebody was playing in the Warthog already down on the beach.
Oh, nice.
And I just started playing it. I was like, holy crap, this feels awesome.
Yeah.
But then we got out. It was me and another guy. It was like a 2-player. We got out and we're like running around, and it was like the first time I ever really experienced, a third-person shooter that I really loved.
Mm-hmm.
I had played other first-person shooters, on the computer, like Wolfenstein, Doom, and some others.
They're like so fast-paced.
Yeah, they're a little too fast-paced. Halo is very deliberate and a little bit slower. You could quicken up the reticle.
I think that's probably because it's on the console.
I guess. But I was I was instantly hooked. I had no interest in an Xbox whatsoever. Played that for like a 10-minute lunch break, and I was like instantly like, what can I sell? What can I peddle? What Super Nintendo games can I sell? I had to have that game. And I guess I just
So that
told
was a system buyer for you.
the system buyer of all system buyers. Yeah. It's up there with anything, Mario included. Like that game sold the Xbox for me, and it was the only game that I played on Xbox for years.
Okay, I'll be honest. Halo didn't sell the system for me. Can you guys guess which Xbox game?
Steel Battalion.
No.
That's a good guess, since you already lobbied down in the comments. Was there a Castlevania game for Xbox?
No.
There was.
Remember, I like RPGs.
Final Fantasy?
No. KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh!
Yeah.
Okay, all right, fair
That's
enough.
what did it for me.
But that game came out a little bit later, too. So
Yeah, I couldn't wait.
good one. A good game, but we're talking about Halo here, so have some respect. The Master Chief. No, but I bought the game, and I'm sure I had you come over, and all I had was one Duke, the big controller, and then you played it for like a second or two, and you was like, I love this. You went out and bought. I know I had a Duke and a Pelican.
Yeah, I didn't buy my own controller until quite some time afterward.
So did you just live off the Pelican for a while? Because I don't think I had 2 Xbox controllers, did I?
Well, I think you had 2.
Okay, maybe it was when our buddy Jason started playing with us.
It was when we would get together and have like LAN parties and whatever, and a lot of people were coming. And I kept getting kind of stuck with the Pelican or whatever.
Because I wasn't gonna not have.
But finally, I was like, I'm getting a good controller. So yeah, I didn't even own an Xbox, but I bought an Xbox controller.
That's how good this
Did you
game
buy
was.
the Duke or the Slim version?
I think you had the S version.
The little version was out by then. I got
Okay.
the S version.
Yeah, that's how good Halo was. This dude didn't even own an Xbox. Never did, I guess.
And they were an
never
expensive controller. No,
They
I
weren't-
never
they
did.
weren't
Really?
cheap.
I now have that controller and about 4 games, maybe less,
Do you own an Xbox?
because those games became playable on Xbox 360 when
backwards
360
compatibility.
came out. So I went back and I bought like a couple games that I liked on the Xbox, but I never got an Xbox.
Yeah. It was a great system.
We the great thing about we talk about LAN parties, but this was pre Xbox Live. Halo 2 is the big Xbox Live seller.
Oh yeah, that was
So,
awesome.
but when we played online on landlines, it was through this thing called GameSpy.
Yeah.
Remember that? So
Is
you
that
would,
through the PC?
yeah.
Yeah.
So you were actually playing other people on their Xbox through like some fan-made unofficial piece of software.
And to be fair, they were probably lagging pretty bad.
Yeah, that was
Because
always
we
the thing.
always hosted, and
Well, I had a good cable modem connection, so I was always like, I'll host. But even if you had a really awesome connection, there's always that fraction of a lag.
because every time that we did let somebody else host, we always got mad because
We held our own, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
And we were just like, we're hosting forever.
Yeah, we just wouldn't play you if we couldn't host. We're like, whatever. We got this. But then we got our buddy Jay hooked. Jason, who was in the Star Wars episode with us. And I don't really think he's cared about a game much since. But my point is, we played that game pretty much every weekend
Every Tuesday.
for 6 hours
Wow.
for 2 years straight. We were that addicted to it. And I remember when Halo 2 was coming out, we were all very excited. And I'm sure you'll probably know where I'm kind of going with this. We started it up, we played it, we were way excited for it, and we instantly were turned off because
The pistol.
the pistol sucked. They nerfed this pistol gun.
Oh, man.
That's what our favorite weapon was in the original Halo. It was like a mini sniper rifle, and you could just kill people from half a map away. And we got so precise with
And then
that thing.
in 3, it got better, but it still wasn't the same.
Nah, it never ever got back to the original. And I always kind of resented Halo a bit for that. Why so much hate for the pistol? It's so awesome.
Yeah.
But Halo 2 we still played it. It was fun.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, that's their favorite game in the series.
Especially the dual wielding weapons. I mean, that was pretty.
Yeah, I
nice
mean,
addition.
two, I really liked, that first board was so cool.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, because
for me, it's the weakest though.
I'm with you. I thought 3 was more enjoyable.
I did like 3 a lot.
I really liked
Yeah.
3. 1, I just, we just played the hell out of.
Yeah, well, it's all on the strength of 1, and 4 was really fun too.
Yeah.
4 was really fun. Now 5.
5 is still
haven't
in the
played 5.
cellophane.
Well, here's the thing. Bungie was, of course, the creators of Halo, and they stopped doing Halo games after, was it ODST or no? It was Reach.
Oh yeah, and we didn't even mention ODST and Reach,
Yeah.
which I liked both of them.
They focused a lot on the multiplayer, which is fine. And in
Reach was really good.
Build your own like kind of levels. Like there was that whole deal. I want to say you could kind of construct your own levels a bit, and they were fun. They were great. ODST was fun. It was kind of like sold as this like not a sequel, but like
ODST was kind of like, a DLC pack for 3.
It was.
Right.
It kind of was.
But
Like
it was
nowadays, it
good.
would be a DLC
Side
pack.
quest kind of thing.
Yeah, it was fun though.
I liked it, and you were focusing more on the other, not Master Chief necessarily. You were focusing on the other like Marines,
Yeah.
and so you weren't this super powerful tank guy. But once Halo or once Bungie went off to do their Destiny or whatever, which is a game that could have been on my list at one point if 2 like just wasn't as disappointing. Like I was that big into Destiny, like I could have put Destiny.
Is that what happened to Destiny? I don't hear about Destiny.
You don't hear about it anymore? Yeah, it's because 2 kind of went,
They shoot themselves in the foot.
it sort of ruined it a little bit.
Really?
I don't play it ever anymore. It's sad. But yeah, Destiny was reaching Halo fever for me for a long time. Like I was playing it like every week for like a couple years. And then 2 came out. I was like, nah.
I know we were playing Destiny for a while.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you did.
I was into it pretty strong, but
it was
not
pretty good.
as strong as Ron.
I was
and then
doing
it
like
just kind of died
You
off.
were-
and-
I was raiding on 3 characters every week.
Wow.
I was raiding I was doing all the raids 3 times a week every week for like a couple years.
The thing that kind of turned me off on it was the forcing of the social aspect of it, getting online with people.
I love that.
Well, I mean, I love it playing with my friends, but I'm not so much like, a sociable guy for like people I don't know.
Right.
So I'm not so much into just like hopping in some game like with people I don't even know to play. I just won't even play it then.
Yeah, I got kind of used to it. It wasn't so bad, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just a fraction bit more so like outgoing.
Oh, a fraction?
I don't know. I think you're pretty outgoing, sociable guy. But Halo. Bungie went onto that, and then 343 came in, and it did 4 and 5, and they were fine. They looked good. 4 I thought played pretty well. Like it wasn't like one of those things where like a new developer came in, and I was like, they ruined it. They did a good job, and
4,
I someday will hope to play 5.
4, I don't even really remember the story. Like I wasn't getting into the story. I was just kind of like running through the paces and just shooting whatever came up. Like cutscene, whatever, and then you run through and you shoot things, and another cutscene.
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to remember a lot of things about 4, but I remember like me, you, and Troy played 4 a bit.
Yeah.
Online. There was a lot of protecting areas, I feel like, in 4. Like you'd get to a position at a base and you have to hold off waves of enemies. Like little mini horde modes here and there. And I really liked the weaponry. Like there was a lot of cool like laser technology weaponry and stuff. And the enemies were cool too. Like one cool thing I always liked about Halo is you had like the Covenant, and then you'd have all these other like factions, like the Flood. And then there was that faction that came along in like 4 where it was like alien technology.
Yeah.
Kind of like in Destiny, you have those the Vex, similar to the Vex. If you remember the Vex, I know you don't play Destiny as much as me, but they reminded me of the Vex. So, but yeah, Halo on the strength of that first game.
It's like the Forerunners, or I forget what they're called.
I don't remember. Yeah, but I would like to play 5. It has its fans. People play it a lot. I just don't get on my Xbox nearly as much as I used to.
I'll play it someday.
Someday, maybe. All right, so that's our number 7, Nick. What's our number 6?
Number 6. All right, this is our oldest series. Started in 1981. Donkey Kong.
All right. Donkey Kong. Awesome. Rated very highly on our arcade list.
Here's the interesting thing here that I'm willing to bet that I think it made all 3 of our lists. Is that right?
I think it was my number 9.
Yeah, so it made all 3 of our...
That was number 9 for me.
Did you have it wrong? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was number 9 for me.
Now, I'm willing to bet that for both of you, Donkey Kong Country kind of falls into play with your decision there.
Yeah.
The original arcade and Donkey Kong Country.
Both.
For me, it's like really the old games. Yeah. I mean, Country's great.
Well, I mean, we've talked about, like Donkey Kong Country is not one of my favorite SNES games. I know it was like one for you, like way up on your classics list.
Oh yeah, I love it.
But you really like that new Tropical Freeze?
Tropical Freeze is really good, yeah. But
Yeah.
I enjoy those country style games.
I don't like the new ones as much.
They're really good. That's
I don't know,
surprising
I just don't.
because if you like Donkey Kong Country, they're so similar to those games.
But when I picked Donkey Kong as a series, really I was
Donkey
thinking
Kong,
more
Donkey
of the
Kong
old
Jr.
arcade games. Yeah.
Those are the strongest titles for me as well. But when you were making the point, it's like I bet you guys considered. I just considered it because it kept the name going. Donkey Kong came back in a big way. Whereas
That's kind of how I justified having it on there. Because if I was just going to say, I mean, because 3 was kind of weak, Donkey Kong 3.
I don't count 3.
So if I was just going to say like Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr., it's like, hey, it's only 2 games. I can't really justify it. But then I was like, well, Donkey Kong lives on in the Donkey Kong Country titles. There's like the 3 on the Super NES. There was Tropical Freeze, Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
I thought
always a
I thought
prominent-
of those too, but I wasn't sure whether to consider that part of the Donkey Kong series or not. Though it's kind of like its own side series.
After that period in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, when Donkey Kong kind of fell off the radar, ever since when he came back with Donkey Kong Country, we've always had Donkey Kong, whether it be Game Boy or the Super Nintendo. Again, another Nintendo-only license that we have here. This has never been on anything other than arcade and a Nintendo machine. But I feel like there's been a constant stream of Donkey Kong games.
Even the N64 had a 3D version.
Even like the Diddy Kong's
I didn't
Racing.
even mention Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah.
I've never even played that.
Another one of
I've
those that
played it.
should have stayed 2D,
I've not
in
played
my
it.
opinion.
It came out like I think after Banjo-Kazooie, and it reminded me of Banjo-Kazooie, but didn't have like the cute charm of Banjo-Kazooie.
No,
It just didn't belong in a 3D.
No.
Stick to 2D for sure, or in a racing. That's fine. But did you guys remember Diddy Kong Racing?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it was good.
That was
good
pretty good.
stuff,
I mean,
yeah.
it was very Mario Kart-esque. So the Donkey Kong was everywhere, and he's kind of he stuck around. So. I mean, is there really much else to say to Donkey Kong? We've talked about Donkey Kong quite a bit and other things, arcades, Super Nintendo. Even in Game Boy, he popped up in our Game Boy list. So we all love Donkey Kong. It only makes sense that he would be on our list. So, all right. I guess we'll just skip right over Donkey Kong, I guess, and go right into number 5.
Okay, this series originated in 1991. Sonic the Hedgehog.
I'm kind of happy he's in our top 10 because
yeah.
he scooted way down in my top 15. I kept scooting him out.
He really scooted down on mine too. Really, the only reason he even made my list is really just because I recognize Sonic as just a really strong mascot name. The Sega Genesis back in the 90s.
He kept Sega afloat.
And I love, when you first showed me Sonic the Hedgehog, the very first game on Sega Genesis, I mean, I loved it.
It was great. The
It was
animation
great.
The speed.
And then when
blew you
Sonic
away.
2 came out, Sonic Tuesday.
Yeah, when they added Tails.
I remember, when that came out and playing that like on the TV, like at KB Toys or whatever. And, that was great.
Service merchandise for me.
Service merchandise.
Yeah. I remember playing that
that's a
and
old
Sonic Spinball at Service merchandise.
Yeah, and it was great. And when 3 came out, it was great too. And
Oh, yeah.
Sonic and Knuckles,
Sonic and
and
Knuckles.
it added that, the lock-on technology. That was really
fantastic,
cool.
right? So
It's a
cool.
cool
Sonic
gimmick.
CD.
Yeah, Sonic
I love
CD,
Sonic
yeah.
CD. It's one of okay. Well, let's talk about our favorite Sonics. Then I'm gonna say Sonic CD. Love that one, and it justified my Sega CD purchase a bit too. So I didn't have many
So you're
games
guilty.
to play.
You have to.
But it was
right?
really good. It was really good.
I'm kind of torn between Sonic CD and Sonic 2.
For me, it would have to be Sonic 2.
Okay.
Definitely Sonic 2.
I'm leaning towards Sonic 2, but Sonic CD was great though.
Oh man, it was so good.
Well, there's also what's the one that came out on the Switch and the other
Mania.
systems? Mania.
Sonic Mania.
That's a really good
A
one,
return
too.
to form, and it's
right.
it's like really the only game that's keeping it legitimate now.
Yeah.
Because even like their other game they released this past year wasn't all that well received.
Well, and there
The
was
3D versions aren't that great.
remember Sonic 4 when it came out like on 360 and what was it, PlayStation 3, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
People hated on it, but
Yeah.
I thought it was decent.
It was okay. It was like what people wanted.
They were crying about like the mechanics just weren't like just right or something, and
right.
like okay, it felt a little different, but I liked it.
Yeah. Sonic Mania was the first game I think that really feels like it belongs.
Yeah.
Like it could very well be like 1, 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles, Sega CD, Sonic Mania.
Yeah.
Like it feels right in
Oh
there.
yeah.
And-
I mean, some very passionate developers on that. And kudos to Sega for actually publishing that.
Yeah.
Big time
Pretty awesome.
kudos.
And when he went 3D, Sonic Adventure, it was a good attempt.
It was
but,
better than a lot of other franchises that attempted to do 3D.
It went downhill from that one. I
It did
think.
it went downhill from there, definitely.
One can only wonder how if Saturn might have lasted a bit longer if that Sonic Adventures game had come out on it. Maybe, I don't know.
Oh, instead of Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I mean, then again, Dreamcast didn't last long, and it kind of needed
Right.
Sonic to jumpstart this. Whatever. We've talked about Sega quite a bit.
Rest in peace.
Rest in
Dreamcast.
peace. They had that really great stretch of Sega Genesis, and they just didn't. They screwed up. They just screwed up. They didn't know what they were doing. It didn't seem like
Too many add-ons.
too many add-ons, dude. They kept around that Genesis husk for so long.
Yeah, you're talking about add-ons. Can you imagine having like all those different add-ons and then have like the Sonic Kart with the Sonic and Knuckles with the
Be like a
sticker?
tower. You can't even fit this in your entertainment center. It's ridiculous. It's comical. I'd like to see a picture of that. Somebody's got to have done that.
I think it's online. Yeah.
It's got to be out there. I want to have to try and
Had
Google
like
search
the
that.
Sega CD and 32X and a Sonic and Knuckles.
It's like a big stack of
cartridge with a
Sonic
cartridge
like
in it.
Genesis add-on pancake.
Wow.
But you have to recognize Sonic because he is like an iconic character. One half of the great console war, mascot wars.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of companies try to develop their own mascot because of Sonic. Like I don't think Mario was really hanging their hat on the Mario mascot until Sega started poking him. They started they kind of created a rivalry in a war.
Sure.
I mean, I guess, Mario's always kind of been there. Like in the, advertisements for, like in the Sears catalog or something for the NES back before Genesis was even a thing, before Sonic was even a thing. They'd have artwork of Mario on there,
Yeah, I mean, Mario, I don't want to say that he wasn't utilized by Nintendo at all, because he was, at one point famously as recognized or more recognized even than Mickey Mouse, like that. After Mario 3 came out and they'd done like a poll or something. It's kind of a famous story. Like Mario is now more recognizable worldwide than Mickey Mouse. Think about that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, of course he was being utilized, but the mascot thing was totally prodded by Sega. Like they kind of, because he was, like, look at Mario, he's going slow, and they were really pushing things.
Yeah.
And then Nintendo, they ignored it for a bit, but then when they started seeing that the scales were being tipped in sales, they kind of started fighting back a bit. But Sonic the Hedgehog, great character, not so great cartoon, but not a lot of those games, the cartoon series turned out very well, I guess. That's not your fault, Sonic. Favorite Sonic
Good
game? We already
comics,
mentioned that.
Good comics, though. Sonic comics.
What?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
They were good?
Yeah, I like
Were they dark?
No, not really. Kind of
Okay.
silly.
Okay. Our lone Sega representative in the list.
Did you read them when it was like a crossover with Mega Man?
No, I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Those are supposed to be pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
See, Ron knows nothing.
Well, I mean, because he doesn't even really talk, does he? Does he talk in the comics?
Who, Sonic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I know he spoke in the cartoons, but I just thought that was a goofy cartoon thing. I didn't know.
There was a comic, like a little advertisement comic that I remember you showing me when the very first game came out, and because it's like it was like how he got his shoes or something. Like he got them from Robotnik or that was his name, right? Robotnik.
Dr. Robotnik or Eggman or whatever.
Yeah, and he said something like Rico Suave or something
Yeah.
like that. You remember that
I remember
comic?
that,
You
yeah.
showed me that.
No, I don't remember. But that just seems like a goofy advertisement. Though, was it like official?
I don't remember. You showed it to me.
Okay. I mean, I don't doubt that I did.
Back in, year what, 91? Yeah, back in 91, you showed it to me.
Yeah. That might have just been like some advertisement. Like I always felt like Sonic was more silent. Like he never spoke. He certainly never spoke in the games, did he? Well, maybe he did in the Dreamcast versions.
I don't think he did.
No,
No.
Did he not even in those games?
I don't think so.
Nah, well, doesn't matter. Sonic the Hedgehog is our number 5. Which takes us to number 4, Nick. Who's our number 4?
Number 4.
Or what series is our number 4?
1987 Street Fighter. You know, and I started to make the comment before. So many of these titles that that we point out as being a good series, didn't really start out that way.
You're right. This one started out a bit on shaky foot.
It's funny that they often get sequels because the first one and even which one was it? I was thinking about that. What you mentioned Grand Theft Auto before, and I was thinking, that series, I never even really heard of it until 3.
Oh yeah.
3.
I totally remember it being on PlayStation and not being all that interesting.
Yeah, the top down.
Yeah. It didn't work.
You guys didn't like that?
I remember it.
I liked it. I don't know.
It's not even on PlayStation that I remember. I remember it being like a computer game.
Really?
And
well, because 2 was on PlayStation, wasn't it?
Well, PlayStation 2 was when 3 came out, and that just blew
No. I
everything
mean,
away.
it was Grand Theft Auto 2 on PlayStation. I think it was the sequel.
Maybe. Because 2 is like a complete blank to me. Like 1, I remember on a computer. 2, I have no idea. I don't remember 2 at all. And then 3 is what blew everything away.
I didn't like it because once you got moving kind of fast, I feel like you couldn't really tell what was going on. Like it just didn't work for me too much. It was neat. It was a cool concept, but with 3 blew my mind. Whoa.
But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about Street
we're
Fighter,
not talking about Grand Theft Auto.
Street Fighter 1 was awful.
Well, it's not good.
But 2
was
that's
revolutionary.
What started the revolution.
Yep, the fighting game revolution of the early '90s. Was everything. There was just spin-off after not spin-off, but there was just like clone after clone after clone, and there were successful clones too. Like they weren't just bad. And each clone would like try its own little gimmick. Most famously, Mortal Kombat. But we did a whole tribute episode of Street Fighter, so we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about it.
Yeah, not a whole lot to say there.
No,
good games.
I guess you could do the whole "What's your favorite Street Fighter game" thing.
Obviously, too.
Well, but there's 5. Well, there's more than that now. Flavors of 2. I mean, come on.
Okay. Fair enough. Turbo's my favorite. You're gonna like which version of Turbo?
Street Fighter 2 Turbo or Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo?
Street Fighter 2 Turbo is my favorite.
Okay.
Are we done? Are we done here?
I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
I
I love that. I love the speeding it up, and the Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo is good.
Okay, well, because I love the speeding it up too, but I'm saying Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
All right. But we both agree on the Turbo. We all agree on the Turbo, I guess.
Okay.
The speeding it up thing was genius.
Oh yeah.
That was a great move, and that all came, as we know, from like the mods.
Yeah.
The mods playing a big part in that.
Rainbow Edition.
Oh, yeah. Like the people from Capcom are like, I'm seeing these kids playing these games, and they're doing it anyway. We might as well capitalize on it. Yeah. We can't stop them from modding these games.
Air moves and whatnot.
Yeah, that was great. So Street Fighter, and another thing too is like, I wanted to make this point if I could. Right around here in the list is where I think is a good point to make this point. Whatever. It's a good point to make my point. It's like that Austin Powers, like, allow myself to introduce myself. But my list has kind of taken, over time, has gradually shifted. Whereas with this game, might have been right at the very top at one point. There have been other series that have slowly but gradually moved their way up. Yeah. This one slowly but gradually moved its way down. Yeah. Halo is another good example of that. Like, Halo would have been way up at the top. Mm-hmm. At one point. Mm-hmm. But, the Street Fighter and Halo have gradually moved down to make way for other games, that have just been so good over the years. You can't help but recognize it.
Probably could have saved that comment for the next title.
I could, but Street Fighter was like, I think it's an appropriate place to say it, because Street Fighter was such a huge game for both of us.
It's reverse that for the next title. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Good point. Yeah. Good point. All right. So we're not going to belabor Street Fighter. Martin, since you weren't here for the tribute episode, do you have any strong memories of Street Fighter for yourself?
I clearly remember playing Street Fighter 2. I think it was just the standard version at Walmart. Just that's where it was.
Vanilla.
The vanilla version. Yeah. Just wasted tons of money on that. But yeah, it was just awesome.
That's where I first played it too, actually. Walmart.
Yeah.
No. Bowling alley for me.
Bowling alley for you. Yeah. But yeah, it's an awesome series, and it's cool that it's still relevant. Yeah. It had its down points, I guess, like its low series, But with 4 was really popular, and 5 is getting back up to where it should be. It's popular again. So, Street Fighter remaining relevant.
Oh, what's your favorite character?
Oh, good point. All right. So as Nick and I have discussed in the past, I have 2 favorites. I have a favorite where I mean business, and I have a favorite where I want to screw around with somebody.
I know them both.
Yeah. So Ken is my I mean business character.
Yeah.
Balrog is the character that I like to pull out when I'm feeling kind of cocky.
Yeah.
And I have a sense that I can toy with somebody. I'll play with Balrog. But if I lose it with Balrog, I'm like beep, 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 beep. Like I'm going right down to the lower left. Right to Ken. What about you?
I would say Ryu and then Blanca. Blanca's the one where I can just kind of do the cheap shots with the electric shock and.
But Ryu's the one you go back to, if you mean business. I know Nick's, but why don't you go ahead and say it?
Well, it was that back in Street Fighter 2, but I don't really know so much anymore.
Okay.
So Ryu, pretty obvious. And the one you're thinking of is Zangief. But
yeah. Somebody's taking over Zangief.
I just don't really play him all that much anymore, and I really don't know who to put in his place, so I guess I'll stick with it. So, okay, Ryu and Zangief. Right.
Well, there was a period where I would have also said Dalsim for you.
Because there are definitely...
Yeah. He'd probably be my third.
He frustrated the crap out of me.
There's a handful of characters that I kind of like to mess around with and get good with. But it's not even just one. Honda's not even one of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. He's so big and lumbering, and so is Zangief, I guess too. But
Chun-Li, she had some good moves.
Yeah. So Chun-Li was
Honda is probably the very last one on that list.
It might be no offense, Martin, but Blanca or Chun-Li were probably my not Chun-Li, Blanca and E Honda.
Blanca just recently came out on the 5 arcade edition.
Yeah, it's time for me to get that. I keep showing it pop up. It'll be on sale on Amazon for $24.99 or whatever. I'm it's got to be worth it now. I just need to go ahead and get it.
It's good.
Yeah. All right.
Sagat's coming. I can't wait for that.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
It'll be time. Okay, let's move on to our top 3. Nick, what's our number 3 in our top 10?
All right, number 3 originated in 1986. Metroid, and this is where one that I was thinking that it's becoming more relevant to you, that you didn't really play them so much back in the day.
Yeah, it's surpassed Street Fighter for me, I think, now. Street Fighter is, for me, on my list is 6, Metroid 7, but Metroid was not even on my radar for a long time.
Oh, really?
Now it's with every game, and with Prime 4 coming out on Switch.
And I think we've mentioned this before, how with you, it became relevant with Prime, the 3D series.
Yes.
For me, it was Super Metroid.
Yeah.
Martin, I think you pretty much liked it all the way.
Yeah, I played the original.
Yeah. And that game is very playable and fun. It's not like the game started out bad. It's just I just didn't appreciate it. It was so different than a lot of the other games.
Mm-hmm.
So with Metroid, once again, if you're in our top 3, you've probably managed to stay really relevant for a long time. And Metroid has been around since the get-go for Nintendo. It's had success on all of Nintendo's major systems. You'll find it in the top 10 list of every one.
Yeah.
Handheld or console. Doesn't matter.
The handheld versions were really good too.
They're really good, yeah. Even the Game Boy version is really good.
Oh yeah.
Metroid 2, which is funny because that was the sequel to Metroid. You found it on the Game Boy. It's we wouldn't expect it to be there. But the Super Metroid, many people consider that to be the best Metroid game.
Definitely one of the pinnacles.
when I was kind of looking at some of these titles and trying to weigh them and everything, and seeing how many titles were in a series, and Mega Man, for instance, I was looking at Mega Man.
Lots of titles.
And there's a lot. But with a lot of these, though, when I would see the NES title, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, whatever, I would kind of overlook the Game Boy and the handheld ones.
Yeah.
But I really had to pay attention to them, though. But for the most part, with the Mega Mans, I just kind of wrote a lot of those off because that was the
lesser versions.
That was the lesser version of Mega Man 2, and that was the lesser version of Mega Man 3. And, so it was just kind of lesser redone versions of what we've already seen. But like you said, with Metroid, that was the sequel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and remained the Metroid 2. And it's out on 3DS, like the spiritual remake, I guess you'd say, of what's the latest one? Metroid.
Return of Samus.
Return of Samus. Thank you.
Is that what the subtitle?
I think so. Yeah, I believe you're right. So I kept wanting to think Fusion, but I knew that wasn't it. But there was that, and then so it was really great on Nintendo. It was great on Game Boy. Then it was really great on Super Nintendo. Then it came to GameCube, and it was really great on GameCube.
Fantastic.
Caught my attention with the Prime games.
Definitely the first one.
Yeah, and then on Wii just kind of like remastered the So it didn't get an original Metroid game, I don't think.
Well,
did it?
But it had the trilogy.
Yeah, it got the remastered version.
Yeah, so you can use the
so worth
motion
revisiting.
controls.
No, we had the original. The Team Ninja created that version of Metroid. That was 2.5D.
Other M.
Other M, yeah, like the worst Metroid.
I've never played it.
I've never played that either.
I've never played it.
What was the deal with that game? Well, you guys never played it?
Never played it.
Okay,
Never
we
played
don't know. But then, you had your Game Boy Advance games like Fusion, which a lot of people really like that game.
Cool.
And it's, if Metroid's not infallible, there was that one that came out, like Arena Metroid game or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
There were a couple of different ones, I believe. Like, there was one for 3DS, I think, and there was another one for, like, Wii.
The DS Metroid was pretty good.
What was that one called?
Can't remember the subtitle, but it was pretty nice.
Was it, like, Prime, or was it, like, the 2D style?
It was 3D, like Prime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like there were like other bounty hunters that you had to fight or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, honestly, Metroid's been quiet for a while. Like, for year after year in the E3, like, people would do their predictions, like, please Metroid, come back, Metroid. And then, like, year after year, it feels like for a long time, like, there wouldn't be one. And then finally last year, they released that little teaser, Metroid Prime 4. Yes! And then they gave us, but that wasn't it. They gave us the 3DS remake in the same E3. So, like, you got
cool.
the best of both kinds.
Mm-hmm.
So Metroid's back in a big way, and we're all really excited for the new one. I don't think we actually did the favorites. Nick, I have a feeling I know what your favorite is, but what would you say your favorite Metroid game is?
Well, Super.
Okay.
Yeah.
Martin?
It's a toss-up between Super and Prime. I just can't decide.
Fair enough. I have not played Super all the way through. I just bought a reproduction copy for Super Nintendo, and I plan on playing it straight through all the way. I'm sure you guys are jealous. I'm going to get that fresh experience. So I'm really excited for that. I got to go with Prime, though.
Yeah,
It brought it into that, like, first-person style. It's genius how they did that game. Like, even the ball, like, the way you would roll around in the ball is so cool. And I'm almost tempted to say that Not Another Remake, the Not Another Metroid 2 remake on the computer is solid. I know it's not an official game.
It's very good.
But I played that a bunch. Like, I really, really enjoyed it.
And it's really interesting how different the official one Nintendo put out is. But
I actually kind of prefer the computer fan-made version better.
The fan-made one is definitely like Super Metroid with Metroid 2 maps.
Yeah.
But the official one has got new techniques and whatnot.
New techniques and like a smoothed out kind of like 3D style
kind of
graphics.
look. Yeah.
And I like it. It's good. All the things they added were cool. Mm-hmm. But that one I don't think you can really even find it anymore. You might be able to torrent it, but officially you're not going to be able to just Google it on a website and find it. You had to get it real fast because Nintendo is like, boom, they're not going to let a lot of their franchises stay out there, the fan-made games. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, it's very good.
It's really good. I'm almost tempted to say that might be my favorite, honestly. Wow. Because one of the things too that's really I'm appreciating Metroid more and more is there's this new resurgence of like Metroidvania games that are coming out on all like PlayStation and 4 and Vita and all that. There's so many good ones out there. What's the Axiom Verge?
Oh yeah,
it's like the best non-Metroid Metroid game. That game is badass. I love that game. So I think my love for that style of game has like fueled my interest and love for the Metroid games. So there you have it, Metroid number 3, which takes us to number 2.
Number 2, also in 1986, The Legend of Zelda.
Yep, Legend of Zelda. Another game like Metroid. It kind of was big on every platform. Every Nintendo machine was a meaningful release. Starting with the NES.
Not counting Breath of the Wild, what's your favorite?
Link to the Past.
If I allowed, would you have said Breath of the Wild?
Why can't we allow Breath of the Wild? It's
Because
been out for
I
long
knew
enough now.
because I knew you'd say it.
No, you're wrong. I would go Link to the Past.
Okay.
Yeah, I would still go Link to the Past. That's the game that I always play on Virtual Console. I buy it every single time. I can't say that for a lot of other games, Zelda games.
I think I'd say A Link to the Past also.
Yeah, Martin.
Breath of the
Link to
Wild
the
is
Past,
excellent.
definitely.
Breath of the Wild is phenomenal.
I mean, that's saying something about it though too, because it's the first of the 3D games where I'd even consider topping one of the 2D games.
Martin, are you going to say Ocarina of Time?
No, I was gonna say definitely. Agree
Okay.
with you guys.
Ocarina of Time has such a just rabid fan base.
I think
Yeah.
it's that age gap. You know, like
I mean, I like it. Don't get me wrong.
I think.
but-
Well, I mean, I love it too. It's great, but it can't top A Link to the Past. for
It
me.
hasn't aged as well as
But-
the other 2D.
I
Zelda
think
games.
I think those that grew up with it, like that was their Zelda game growing up. That's their favorite one.
That's a shame, man, because they got to give the old games a chance. You know, and
Well, and to be fair, I think some have, but it's still there's that nostalgia factor that Ocarina of Time is the one that they grew up with.
yeah, I'm sure that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, not to take
And
anything away from those games.
The
Like,
same could be said for us, really. I mean, you know, it's our nostalgia factor. It's the ones we grew up with.
You're right. You're right.
I mean,
think-
we grew up with the original Zelda, but A Link to the Past was like the original and just built off on it so much more.
Well, you had Zelda, and then again, Zelda 2, Link's Quest. What is it? Link's Adventure.
The Adventure of Link.
There you go. I was tip dancing around it pretty much. Never one of my favorite Zelda games.
Yeah,
Like
one
to
of my
me, that's
least
like
favorite.
the odd child.
And you know, I mean, I like the game, but obviously it's going to be bottom of the list, though.
yeah. But
Down there with Minish Cap.
I will say that I've grown to appreciate Zelda 2 a bit more. Like in the age of emulators and things, I've played it more and appreciate it more. Like I kind of dig it now. Like whereas before I hated I just couldn't stand the overworld aspect of like the map. It bothered me. Like you're walking along and then suddenly you're attacked and you're in this like crazy
that kind of RPG kind of element. Yeah.
I didn't like that RPG element. Like if you're into Dragon Warrior and other games like that, I'm sure you thought it was fine.
I didn't like that either. I would try like my hardest to try to run away from them or get to a path or something.
When you were in like a dungeon or something, great, or a castle, I don't know what you'd call them, but that it really shined. I loved those parts of the game, but there was just too much of that walking around and getting ambushed, and like I'm forced to play these sections I didn't want to play.
You didn't get enough like experience points fighting whatever guy ran into you to even mess with it. It was just like it just slowed you down, and so you tried to avoid it.
Yeah, it was just annoying, really. But A Link to the Past, The Triumphant Return. All of our favorites, I guess you'd say. Yeah. We've spoken ad nauseum to Link to the Past. It's great. And then you got your 3D versions, but then there's the excellent Game Boy versions. Like they're really good. Like the Link's Awakening is a legit Zelda game. Like it's not just we made this point even too in our Game Boy episode. It's not just a good enough to fit on a Game Boy version of Zelda. Like it's like a full Zelda game. You get the full Zelda experience with that. And Minish Cap or whatever you joke, but I mean even those are good games. Then you get games like what was the GameCube version? It's a lot of people don't
Wind
like.
Waker.
Yeah, I love Wind Waker.
Wind Waker's great.
In Wind Waker you can pick up like on Wii U like dirt cheap now, like the HD remake.
Yeah.
I probably would have said before Breath of the Wild came out that Wind Waker was my favorite 3D one.
I would agree with you. Because I wasn't huge into the Wii versions, like the Skyward Sword.
Oh, right.
And what was there was two, right?
What was the one with the wolf? Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess,
Yeah.
I was not... Zelda, that was like, I would have to say the dark periods of Zelda for me. I'm not saying they're bad, but
I think because it was on the Wii.
Both were on the Wii.
Both were on the
Kind of
Wii.
avoided it.
Yeah.
You know.
They
Wiggle waggle effect.
yeah, especially
Well, because one was supposed to be on GameCube, right? And it kind of got pushed to the Wii.
Twilight Princess was the one that was on both. Like it was being designed for GameCube, and then it was kind of delayed and was released on both.
Which they ended up doing for
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Oh, Nintendo.
Yeah. Called that one.
You did call that. We were playing Destiny online, and I
Yeah.
remember you calling that.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
Especially though with
Martin knows his Nintendo history.
especially with Skyward Sword though, that they really were trying to push that motion control, and then that's just what kind of took it. I didn't want to do that.
No, that was the one where they got back to the more realistic looking Link though. Like people dug that. Or was that Twilight Princess?
That was Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
But so many like aspects there in boss fights, like you had to like do like an angle slash or a horizontal slash, and it just was more annoying than anything.
I feel like I bought both of those games, but barely played either one. Like I was buying them because I had to. It was a Zelda game. A new Zelda game's out. I'm buying this, but just never played it. And maybe it was due to the Wii controls, or maybe it was just mostly due because I think by then I was way heavily into Xbox 360. Like I was playing everything on Xbox 360. So maybe that was just it. I just was not really interested in Zelda at the time. Maybe that's all. But with Breath of the Wild, like it brought everybody back. Everybody's game of the year. The puzzles and the temples and stuff, man. Just,
and Breath of the Wild has motion controls, but it's like up to you whether you really want to use it or not.
Optional.
Yeah. It's not like a gimmick they're trying to push in your face like it was with the other ones.
Yeah, I hated that. That just to me sums up the Wii.
That off.
Yeah, it's fine if you want to use it, but don't make it the majority of the mechanic. Let us turn it off. Let us make it optional. So, whatever. Is there much else we can say about Legend of Zelda? Like, it seems like once we get into the top 3 of our lists, they're so excellent, and we mention them so often
and it's
anyway.
things we've talked about before,
over and over and over again.
Probably have had like an entire episode like devoted to.
I think that's what's fun. The fun thing about these lists that we're doing is talking about the lower end of the list.
Yeah.
It gives us a chance to really talk a lot about a game that we wouldn't dedicate a whole episode to.
By the time, like every list we come up with, by the time it gets to number 1, it's like, well,
look at you.
You know what it is.
What do you want? What do you want from us? It's the best. And I feel like that we're just going to say the same for number 1. So we'll go ahead and say number 1.
All right, coming out in 1985, Super Mario Brothers. You know what it is.
Like it ain't gonna be Wrecking Crew or or some Urban Champion. Super Mario Brothers, man. The series so good. It spawned multiple hits, like you'd said, Donkey Kong, Mario Kart, others that we didn't even mention, Mario sports games.
And that's what when I was trying to come up with like series, I was trying to decide, do I say Super Mario Brothers or do I just say like Mario? And does that roll into, if you just say Mario, does that mean Donkey Kong?
Yeah.
And then on into everything else? And
I was there too. I felt so strongly though about Mario Kart and Donkey Kong that I'm kind of glad we did what we did.
Yeah.
I just put Super Mario Brothers, and I'm not even including.
And and I was even kind of at one point I separated out Donkey Kong with Mario Brothers, but then like I started with just Mario Brothers and was treating that like the first one, and then Super Mario Brothers being like the sequel to Mario Brothers. But ultimately, and just like in text, I just wrote Super Mario.
Yeah. That's what I feel like. Super Mario starting with the NES.
Oh, definitely.
Again, it took advantage of whatever hardware Nintendo was shilling at the time. There was a quality Mario game coming out. And Mario took chances too. Like there were excellent games that Mario came out, like starting probably with Sunshine, which is a game that if there is a virtual console and they do end up doing GameCube games on the virtual console, like I'm going to hit that one up number 1. Yeah. I want to give that another chance because I don't feel like I gave it much of a chance. I got bored with it halfway through.
It's a little underrated.
I think like Mario Brothers 2, it's like not really looked at much like as a Mario game, but it totally is. Like it's got all the charm and the characters and anything you'd want from a Mario game. But then they got right back on track with like, Sunshine. which is amazing. Not Sunshine.
was
Galaxy. I just said
that's what you're
Sunshine.
talking about.
sorry. No, Galaxy.
Yeah,
Galaxy
Galaxy's
was great.
Yeah.
So you had the amazing. It's like they're the best at everything. They're the best 2D games. They're the best 3D games. Mario 64.
You know, and
I love 64.
I think I've mentioned this before, that with every 3D Mario game, it's like you see like early screenshots or whatever of like what the concept is, and you're like, that looks weird. I don't know, man. I don't
You're
know.
right.
Like
yeah.
Mario.
Like the cat suits.
No, I'm not even like the cat suit one. I mean, that kind of seemed on board with like the raccoon suits.
Yeah,
or
you're right.
whatever.
You're right.
Yeah.
No, I mean like the what was the with the planets? What was that one called?
Galaxy.
Galaxy. I
Galaxy.
kept wanting to say Odyssey, and I'm like, no, it's not Odyssey.
Yeah.
Yeah, Galaxy. It's like, that's weird.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like a Mario game.
It's a tough sell on paper, isn't it?
And when Sunshine was like, he's cleaning like all the paint. Mario's got a water gun. That's weird.
It's weird.
Yeah.
That's not a Mario game.
Stop doing weird stuff with my
Yeah.
Mario.
And every single one of those, I had this feeling, and then every single one turns out like so fun.
So tight. So the level design perfect. Music great. I mean, and the games are long too. You get so many hours of enjoyment out of these
Odyssey
games.
was no different, because like the first shots you started seeing of Odyssey, he's running around in that New Donk City, and there's like humans
Oh
walking
my
around,
god, that
and
was
you're like,
that blew people's
what
minds.
the hell is
And
happening?
then you see a T-Rex and you're
Yeah.
like, what is this?
What is going on with Mario games?
But you know what? At this point, I learned to just accept the weirdness.
Well,
and I know it was going to be.
It was with Odyssey when I just said that. It's like, okay, this happens every time.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
It's going to be awesome. And I was not at all surprised when those first initial reactions were coming out. Like, this is like the best. And everyone wants to say it's the best. Like, they keep topping themselves. Like, they really do. And, Sunshine definitely has its big fans. Like, you know, I really regret not beating that game. Like, that's one of the ones that I never beat. And I never, I hate to admit this, but I've never beaten 2 either. I've never beaten.
Wart?
Yeah.
You never fed him his vegetables?
No, I've never fed him his vegetables. I've seen it.
Oh
I've seen it in videos and stuff, but I never have beaten. It's hard. Mario
Man.
2's hard.
I've beat
Yeah,
2
it's pretty
so many
challenging.
times.
People talk about like the lost levels being hard. I think Mario 2's hard.
We rented Mario 2 on like a regular basis, and I've beat it so many times.
Yeah, it's a really tricky game, and I
fun,
guess
though.
too, if you know all the mechanics, and you can beat it in like 20-30 minutes or so probably. But well, there are no
the
warping.
Yeah, there's warps.
Oh, there's
zones.
warps. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But I the one thing I do appreciate about 2 is like the bosses are really colorful, and it's amazing that it wasn't supposed to be a Mario game. Like it's just this like skin of, but everything about Mario 2 feels very Mario still,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
which is just a testament, I guess, to the
'Cause they're all
characters.
weird.
I love the whole like pulling the vegetables out of the ground
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
I love being able to select your character, like, and they all have their pros and cons, and
Little
like
attributes.
yeah, it's just really fun. And Shy Guys and things like that, like they've come along. Pal Block, that's something that's very Mario. Like that was in the original Mario game. So
The coin slots, like the mini games.
Yeah.
You know, them that you had mini games in Mario 3.
Yeah.
And then kind of carried on to the rest of
That's
the
true. Good point.
series.
Okay, favorite Mario game. Let's do this. Can you do it? Or should we just say top 3 Mario games?
I've got kind of a cross between 2, I think.
All right, I'll go first, I guess. Super Mario. Oh God, no, I can't. I can't. Okay. All right. I'm kind of with you. Like, I would say that Super Mario World is the best game, but
Yeah.
Mario 3 is my sentimental
Those
favorite.
are the 2 I'm stuck on.
Yeah. I do believe that Super Mario World is a better game, but Super Mario 3 is probably the Mario game that I played the most and beat the most.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Martin, what would you say?
I'd have to say Super Mario Brothers for the Nintendo is
Oh, okay.
my top. I mean,
That's definitely got
That was
that
it.
nostalgic.
yeah.
Maybe the second most I played, I guess. But you know what? I don't even know. I don't even know which ones I played the most. Now that I think back, I played Mario Brothers quite a bit, or Super Mario Brothers a bunch, a lot. We all did. But I don't know. I just feel like I bet you Super Mario Brothers is the one I beat the most.
It would be interesting if you would have like this like internal like counter
that I could access
Yeah, to
like
be
some
able
sort
to,
of computer, like
like
plug me
like
in.
how the Switch has. You can just kind of like look and be like, oh, look, I've played Breath of the Wild like 52 hours or whatever it is.
And naturally we're going our retro glasses. We're putting them on and we're thinking about those old games. But I think we all really do appreciate the new ones too.
Oh yeah.
Like I played a lot of Odyssey. I played a lot of Galaxy. The Game Boy games are fun. I really enjoyed those.
What do you guys think about the Wii versions, the 2D?
Oh, those are good too.
Yeah.
The new Super
The new
Mario
Super
Brothers.
Mario,
Yeah,
I
those
like
are really
them.
good too. I
Man,
really was happy
when the first new Super Mario Brothers came out on the DS. I was so excited.
Me too.
Finally, like a new like 2D Mario game.
Yeah, 'cause as
not
much
to
as
say
we
the
like-
3D, the 3Ds are great,
Yeah.
but that was exciting.
Well, there was that period where like 2D games was becoming big again, and you were just kind of waiting, like, will they ever do another 2D Mario game? I hope so. And when it came out, you were just super happy about that.
Oh yeah.
Super Mario World 3D, I love that game. That's my son's favorite,
Yeah.
I think, by Mario Cat.
Yeah, Mario.
He
Kart.
loves that game, and I think it's a lot of fun too. Like I like the multiplayer aspect of that game more than any other multiplayer version of Mario.
We need to play some more Mario Kart.
He would
again
love that.
someday. Haven't done played that in a while with him.
But speaking of those 2D, the new 2D games, like I never really got into playing the multiplayer version of that game like I did the Super Mario World 3D. I always felt like you were getting in the way of the people you were like of the other characters you were with.
Yeah,
Whereas 3D World, you kind of had a lot of space to move
Yeah.
around in.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was killing my teammates.
yeah. The
often.
2D one, they really wanted you to do that 4-player thing, but you're just always bumping into each other, and it gets frustrating.
Was there a setting that you could turn on to like maybe like a friendly fire kind of thing turn off where you weren't bumping in? Like that would have made the game more enjoyable.
I don't think so.
They should have. They really should. I think that if you weren't bumping into one another trying to jump around, I think I would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
But getting knocked off ledges and stuff constantly just didn't like it.
Yeah.
So I think I played that more solo than I did anything else. 'Cause
Yeah.
I remember trying to play that with Laura. Like I was trying to get her because she liked the original Mario Brothers game, Super Mario Brothers.
Right.
I was like, oh, let's get this. She was like, okay. She was game. We played it for like one level. And they were like, screw this. This is too hard. It's just no fun to play together.
You get to like the castles where you're going like vertically, and it's like one person can make the jump, the other person can't.
Yeah.
You can. Sometimes you're like, well, okay, here I'll just pick you up and carry you over. I mean, you can do that.
That's no fun though. Yeah, I mean, what fun is that for the person that's getting carried through?
Yeah.
You're just doing it to stay alive and together, I guess. I really like the whole mechanic where like the Rayman games, where like if you do get left behind, you become in a bubble and you can just kind of float along, and then you can get popped out of the bubble.
Yeah.
I don't think that they did that though.
Oh, they do.
Do they? Okay.
They do, but I think it kind of depends on the level though. That I don't remember if they died, like they actually lost a life, and then they came back as the bubble. I know there's a bubble.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just don't remember it. Maybe there was a penalty. I don't think in Rayman Legends there was a penalty. I think you could just bubble yourself and then move along.
You could, I think, hit some buttons to put yourself in the bubble. I think.
Okay.
I don't know. It's been so long.
I just didn't play it enough, I guess. I just didn't give it enough.
Well, and
of a
I didn't
chance.
play it multiplayer very much either. Really.
Yeah. All right. Well, we all you said Super Mario Brothers. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So that's our list, guys. That's our ranking of the top 10 series. This episode went pretty long.
A couple.
Yeah. Okay.
Facts, I guess.
Facts and
Yeah,
statistics.
so things that I just found were interesting as I was going through the list. That so 70% of our top 10 are 1980s and older. So that they're 80s game. Well, nothing was older than the
We're old
80s.
guys.
They're all in the
Yeah.
80s.
Not too big of a surprise. I mean, even though we're all active gamers, we still buy all the new games.
Yeah.
We just remember those games so fondly.
And I think, to be fair, those games most of them are still relevant today. They just originated in the 80s.
Sure.
yeah.
So 20% originated in the 90s and 10% is 2000s or newer.
And that would have just been Halo.
Yeah,
I guess,
that
right?
was Halo.
Just making the 2000s.
Yeah, so what was so the 90s was Sonic the Hedgehog and Mario Kart.
Mario Kart.
Were the two.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And so 50% of our top 10 is a Nintendo game.
Not at all surprising. We're all huge Nintendo fans.
Fanboys.
We're fanboys. I'll admit it. I don't care. I love Nintendo.
And
I have loved other systems in the past, but I always go back to Nintendo.
And I mean like Nintendo developed, not like it was on the NES or something.
Yeah, because you could say that like when you think of Castlevania, you think Nintendo.
Yeah, because I almost made that mistake as I was like kind of looking down the list and I was like Castlevania, NES. Wait, no, that was Konami.
Yeah, we're talking like Nintendo IPs: Mario, Zelda, Metroid,
right?
Donkey Kong.
Yeah, so 50% was a Nintendo IP.
Not too surprising because they've had longevity. They've stuck around. They've stood the test of time. Any other interesting stats for us?
That's all I got.
I do think it's interesting that Microsoft and Sega did crack the list. So good for them. They very distinct Microsoft title with Halo, very distinct Sega with Sonic.
So was that the only? So Konami, Capcom.
Well, what about PlayStation?
Microsoft, Sega.
Well, Final Fantasy, what was your shout out? But honorable mention.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was Nintendo too. I guess PlayStation, but some of these franchises bled into PlayStation.
Yeah.
So PlayStation was represented.
Mega Man. Yeah.
They not any like original PlayStation IPs though. Like we didn't see like what's a very.
You just mean like you talking
Crash
like it
Bandicoot
originated
or
like
something.
on that system?
like an exclusive to PlayStation. Well, I don't think we really even considered any of those. Maybe Grand Theft Auto, but I mean even then they're still like multi-platform Grand Theft Auto games. We like the PlayStation. It's nothing personal. We're just Nintendo fanboys at heart, I suppose. Any other interesting statistics?
No.
All right. Well, it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed taking this opportunity to do a list that we can just kind of open things up, not be restricted to one platform, and those are fun. But I was very curious like how we would go. And if you look at our top 15 individually in the description down below, you'll see how diverse we got. They just weren't enough to like crack the 10. So I found that our 15s, like you were heavy fighting. Martin, you were...
Yeah, I was naming quite a number of fighting series. Like I even named the Capcom Versus series, because I loved just all the X-Men versus Street Fighter, Tatsunoko versus Capcom.
Well, here's your PlayStation, Uncharted. You had listed
Right.
Uncharted.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great series. There's a really, really good series. We didn't even scratch the surface, like Star Fox. Like we didn't even mention Star Fox.
I had Neo Geo, King of Fighters.
Yeah.
There you go.
But if there's any series that we didn't even mention or even scratch the surface, for sure, like comment below.
Yeah.
We'd like to hear what your opinions are.
Yeah.
But just know that ours is the most important.
It's their show.
It's our show. It's our top 10. But no, I am really interested to hear what our listeners think. If or if you just totally agree, say, "Yep, you guys nailed it." But that's not how the internet works. I've been your host, Ron Avis.
I'm Nick Wright.
Martin Reimer.
We'll see you next week.